when we talk about technology, it's all about like, well, what is the tech, or even the thing about like, what's the problem and then what's the solution? And we don't talk about, well, who owns it? Who owns it? Ownership actually matters. That's why when we talk about the fundamentals of settler colonialism in this country and what it meant to dispossess land, like who owns the land, who owns the means of production, who owns any of the things that we're building, for a couple of reasons. One, then we're getting at some of these issues of how important it is for workers to have the financial instrument of asset building in order to weather all the economic and other kinds of crises that are coming at them. So even just to have that ownership, which also means that as the technology develops, or if it's profitable, that it either feeds back into reinvesting in the tech to improve it and make it better, or the profits are redistributed not to the CEO in Houston somewhere, but it's actually going to the workers, and getting a cut of it is different. So there's a lively debate that's happening right now around, and I know we're mostly talking about certain kinds of workers here, but around artists and creatives and what it looks like to own things like the streaming platforms, Patreon. These are in a lot of ways wonderful technologies and platforms that were built for a certain purpose, but the question didn't even occur to most of the investors in these platforms about like, well, what would it look like to cut the workers in as owners? And what would that look like for artists to not be writing hit songs and still starving on the streets of LA, but to actually be able to afford rent? The other piece about ownership that matters is that the workers are actually intelligent. It makes the tech itself smarter, because if the people who own it are not a bunch of board members or investors who have to send consultants out to figure out, is this thing working? Is it, what new features should we add? If it's the actual people who are using it and benefiting from it and have a sense of what's clunky and buggy about it, then you can have a shorter sort of time frame around what does it look like to improve upon the tech, what's the next feature that needs to be built on, because it's connected directly to what the use case is.
I couldn't agree more that ownership is just a central question in all of this. And I think that it is actually one of the biggest opportunities in the technological transition that we're in, is to rethink ownership. And what I mean by that is more than just distributing ownership. I mean, I think we need to rethink the shape of property rights. We need to rethink the way that the assets are possessed, and the way that the fructus, the passive gains from asset ownership are shared. We actually kind of have like a once in a generation opportunity right now, as more assets are digitized, to change the shape of ownership, to make ownership not something, not the fee simple, not the permanent absolute interest that is owned until the end of time and is therefore the perfect object for sort of speculation and monopoly, but something that communities can share. Technology isn't going to fix this. Technology is just going to create an opportunity to rethink it.